Good morning, all. Sorry for that little hiccup, the first hiccup of the day, where the counter timer didn't go back to zero. I set it 10 minutes beforehand, but it didn't start at zero because I was running some tests this morning. I changed things around, and as a result, it gave technical problems, but I've improved things, hopefully. But sometimes in improving things, you lose things as well, right? Now, say we're getting to 12 o'clock and the live stream is starting to come in. While I was trying to organise it for 11 o'clock so it will be always at the same time. Hopefully now that most people have joined us on YouTube by the system of being subscribed. Thank you, Dennis. I got your subscription, came in just as we were booting up. Thank you very much indeed. Now we'll do a little roll call to see who is actually out there and get you used to putting up comments, right? Now we do know the earlier comments. We put up ones to say we were just waiting. And who came in after that? Bernice came in. Have you started yet? So it's just getting used to the way that we start. Theoretically, it's supposed to be just a screen, and then it goes to the countdown, and then it should go to the main video. But unfortunately, the countdown was just a little bit ahead of itself. So, and then the next one was and then Mary Mac has said that she's here. Now, is there anybody else out there in this world? You might send us in a live stream chat on YouTube. Hope you're all getting there well. If people have difficulty... Oh, Declan has come in. Oh, good, you're all coming in now. About a half a minute after what I've said, because there's about a half a minute difference in it. If anybody has any difficulties, they can put up a message on WhatsApp, and we will try and work it like that. Okay, so this is round two. Hopefully there won't be as many boo-boos this time. Bernice has no sound on the computer. Okay. Sorry?
No sound, but I'm getting sound on the phone.
What can I possibly do? Yes, Bernice, and this is important when we know what is going out there, because hopefully by the next time we have this up, we'll have everybody online. So it's great to find out these sort of things. Bernice, you may have the volume turned down on your phone. You may have in YouTube, there is a button on YouTube over on the bottom left-hand corner that brings up and down the volume. So maybe that has gone down on you. Or alternatively, if you want to, you can hit the CC button that's down there on the bottom, and that goes for anyone who is hard of hearing. They can put up they can hit that button and it will bring up subtitles. So not perfect, but they're a great help if you're hard of hearing, or if the Wi-Fi speed doesn't work. The other sometimes things happens because there's not enough Wi-Fi speed in the area. Your Wi-Fi speed isn't strong enough. But we often blame the Wi-Fi speed in the area, and then when these people get onto their suppliers, they realize that they're in a black spot. And for years they've been getting away, their suppliers have been getting away with giving them poor Wi-Fi value, and you not even knowing it. So we have come an enormous way in getting to the stage that we're at now. Who would have thought 2 or 3 weeks ago that we would be into the world of live streaming? It has been difficult for everybody, I know, and there'll be lots more mistakes made and a lot more bits and pieces to be sorted out. One good thing that we're all starting to learn is we're starting to learn about the Wi-Fi speed and putting up the testers and doing all the different bits and pieces. Starting in...
Okay now.
Oh, Bernice, good, you're okay. It was one of the above that gave Bernice problems, right? That's great. So that's another success. And that's really what gives me the most pleasure in this, is when we do this and people who have had trouble with stuff before turn around and say they've learned something. Got a lovely compliment yesterday from Eileen, who was a bit anxious about getting all set up. And as you know, she had to go for her double brandy after being with me. But when she was leaving, she said, I never thought I would have got through all of that. And she did, and she got through very well. It is frustrating and bewildering and confusing for us all when when we're going through these sort of things. So there will be mistakes made, there will be things wrong. Sometimes people misunderstand what I'm saying because, well, my own brain isn't that organised. As you know, I don't even know what day of the week it is when I'm putting up stuff at times. But we'll all have to live with that until we get a little bit better at doing all these things. Now, the last one that we were doing, the project, and the reasoning behind doing the last project that we were doing, it was mainly testing out the systems to see if it would work and getting us used to the way it works. Some things gave trouble, some things worked very well, some people went a completely different way about doing it, and that is fine. You can break the rules, you can reinvent the system, because none of us really know what we're doing, and you very well could stumble upon a much better way of doing it that we hadn't done at all. So that's a very good starting point. So the one we were doing on the profile photograph was that when you look at Skype and you go through the little round buttons that are on the side of it, where it's usually your initial that's in there, there's no photograph in there. So that's called a profile photograph. It's used on Facebook, it's used on your phone. Some people have them, some people haven't. Some people have it on their phone but don't have it on Skype. All different variations of it. So the project was to have an end that it could have been used on the phone as a profile photograph if you want to. But the whole idea of it was that we would get used to the idea of setting a project and then you understanding what the project was about and then uploading the images so that I can get them and get a system that I get them well and easy, and then as in our the next session that comes after the images, I can put them up on the screen. And in a few minutes, I'll be putting up the photographs that has come in from the different people around the place. Some of them came in real easy. Some of them I made an awful hash of. And you will see that as I'm going through. But it's all a learning curve. Which means now that we're going to change our specification for the way the images get loaded up and how we put them up. And it will probably change again because we haven't invented the wheel correctly yet. There's problems with it. I know that a lot of people like to be able to be given an instruction, told what to do, what the rules are, what's expected of them, and put it up. I know people like that, but unfortunately, when we're developing something, it's not quite like that. I spend a lot of time trying to figure it out as to how it would work, and then the minute I put into action, it all starts to fall asunder because there's consequences of different bits and pieces that I was thinking about that just didn't work out the way I had intended. So what we do then is we change it, and we will use WhatsApp for when we make a mistake. If you have a question about something that you don't understand, put it up, and I will follow it with a clarification. Because as happened the last time, I said that the homework was to be in by yesterday, but on the WhatsApp that I sent out about the details and the information about it, it was different. That idea came from Etna, which was a great idea to put up the criteria at the end so you had it in a written form. It would be really nice if somebody out there would have a look and listen to what I've got to say and put it into words what I have said, so that I can go out on WhatsApp that it's clear and crystal clear, because some people are much better at putting things in alphanumerical order and makes life very, very simple for somebody like myself, right? And then we can put it up at the end. Or at some stage going through, that would be a great help. But before you put it up onto WhatsApp, if you sent it to me first, so I could have a look at it to see, yeah, was that really what I meant? Because what I say and what I mean sometimes can be a little bit all over the place. So, back to the project. It was designed so that it was criteria laid down, a way of uploading it so that I could see it. You can use it in your little photograph on your profile, because as I was saying, we are interested in photography. We should be changing that anyway every so often, right, as we go along, as we understand it more, how it works, and to make something interesting up there. Some of them are really, really good, and it's also a great way of learning. The whole idea of doing projects and putting them up is that we're working in a very short term. So it's only 2 or 3 days from when you get the project to have to put it up, and the following day you get the result of what the project was, which is a little bit like doing a weekend course or a holiday away, because anybody who does the weekend or the holiday find that because things turn around in a short period of time, it's much easier to remember what you've done. Right? So if you have a project, please put up something. If the worst comes to the worst, cheat. Get a photograph from the past or something like that. Do something, or take something as a cheating type arrangement, and we will put it up. And we will have a look at the photograph. Don't worry about whether yours is the best one or the worst one. Whatever. Everybody learns. You learn and everybody else learns from it. So we're only experimenting at present, and it will just take a little bit of time. Right then. So that's enough waffle about that. Let's get to the project, and we'll have a look at the project. Oh, Declan had to leave. Okay. Now, as Declan had to leave, that's okay. Now, you do know if you have to leave at any given stage that you can always come back to this video. It will always be sitting there for you to view it in the same place as you viewed it here. If you want to go and use the link that I put up onto WhatsApp, you can get back to it that way. The first 10 minutes of it is the lead-in, so you have to skip all that. And you can put the bits that I'm talking about that you don't want to listen to again, you can run over them fast as well and get to the bit that you want. Put a timestamp, because it comes up on the screen what time it is. Write it down on a piece of paper and you can get back to the image. Right, so this one came in from Susan, and I thought it was very nice. I think it's really catchy, and what I did with it when they came in, the criteria was that it had to be catchy, it had to be something that people could relate to, that they could say that's kind of something that you would do or whatever. It's a nice, very nice shot. But remember, when it would go into a profile photograph on a phone, it would end up round. Something has gone astray here. I hope you're all looking at Susan's photograph, but Susan's photograph isn't moving. Oh, Susan's photograph has gone. Oh, Susan's photograph has come back. Susan's photograph has been taken by the fairies. Ah, we're back into OBS, and that, oh, we've gone back here. Photo Susan JPEG. Ah, we're back to Susan. You know, the fairies have left us back. But we're not moving from Susan's photograph. Everybody wants to be able to see. And it is a lovely photograph. And things, Susan, okay. Let me... Oh, I see why I beg for forgiveness. I've made an awful stupid mistake. Here we go again. Might be more better this time. Might be more better. This might be a better way. Sorry you're seeing so much of me. That's just the way OBS handles things. Now, the other day when I was doing my taking in the photographs from you, Dennis, when I was taking in his photograph, I hit the wrong button and it came up as my screen said, oh, there's Susan again. Susan is flashing up here again. Oh, here she comes. Oh, Declan, I said. Sorry, Declan. Sorry, Dennis. Now, where? Oh, that's the wrong one. It's gone around in a circle. Because there's so much being used on the computer with all the stuff. Get rid of that for a second. I'll go the other way about it. Do you remember I was saying to you earlier on that I want you all to set up a folder on your desktop called AAA class? New private message coming from Garrett on Skype. Garrett, I can't look at Skype because I have it turned off because it causes conflict. Try and put it up on the YouTube if you can. in the comment, or it might be private and you don't want to tell anybody. Okay, could be one or the other. Anyway, the AA class folder is what I suggest. So all the stuff to do with your projects should live in there. Okay, so that's where I have put project 1, which is the one that we are working on now. Okay, and there are all the images. We should have been able to go to Susan's one, and it should have come up like what it is now. Obviously the fairies got at it. I had it all set up, and we are now with Susan's photograph. That's great. So we'll go on pretending we didn't make that silly mistake earlier on. So the next stage, that one came in from Susan. You've heard all that I've said.
No, I don't be saying that. I'm right beside it.
Okay, now the Susan's one has, what we did was I put a circle around it to imagine what it would look like if it was as a profile photograph, and I think it works very, very well the way she has it done. So that one came in from Susan. The next one came in from Etna. And it's a lovely photograph. So I said, I wonder how that would look if it was round. I thought maybe as a photograph it's perfect. No problems with it being a photograph. The problem with it is that how will it go when it goes into the circle? So I put it into the circle and it works pretty well. There's nothing wrong with it. So it's hard to visualize sometimes how something is going to look. So I thought that and it's a very easy one to say. It's not like that she can say it's a yellow flower and it's a daffodil if she's trying to explain it to somebody. So that worked out well. The next one that came in from Patricia. Patricia sent 2 in to us, which is okay. She sent it in on her iPad. From our iPad. Now, it gave us a little bit of trouble, only a little bit of trouble. It's a lovely photograph, but I think the other one that she sent into us is a far better one, insofar as the circle and using it as a profile photograph will be a lot better. This is a lovely photograph. If the criteria was different, it would be super, but we're looking for something that we would use as a profile photograph. So she sent us this one in. I said, oh, that's much better, because I then brought it into Photoshop to put the circle. I cannot get this on YouTube. I don't know what Mary can't get on YouTube. You go in, well, just go to your link, Mary, and Amora, I should say. Just go to your link and on WhatsApp and just look at it there on your phone, and it will be there for you. Anybody else who's trouble can go there as well as a second attempt. It's just a matter of you have to keep on poking around until you find the solution to it. Okay, so this one, as I came in from Patricia, I put it into Photoshop, wouldn't open, couldn't cope with it. So when that happens, I go off to Mr. YouTube and ask Mr. YouTube how he could do it. So he went on waffling and I didn't like the answer he gave me. So I thought about it for a few minutes and I said to myself, I know how I might be able to do that. If I opened it in Paint and then converted it into a JPEG, it would work. It wasn't a JPEG. So what I did was I went and this looks exactly the same because it is the same, but this is a JPEG, which works much better in Photoshop. Works much better as an input coming into our system. So the criteria is going to change now. If at all possible, when you are sending us images, send us JPEGs. If you can't, you don't know how it won't work for you, fine, send it as it is, but the person who is receiving it and working on it is going to have to convert it. Not the end of the world, but it would be nice if you could do it yourself, because this is going forward when we're using this for exhibition and for competitions and for judging and all sorts of things. Okay, thank you, Etna. Etna has put up a link to class on Skype. It's just that I can't get to Skype. Skype's not open. There'll be too many things open on my computer. So Etna has put the Skype up there for anybody who wants to go to the go to Skype. There's a link up there, and that will bring you straight in here onto the computer. Okay, so let's see how Patricia's works with a circle. I think that works very well. Might darken it down a little bit now, which I didn't do here, but it is possible that you could have done this, right? Okay, so who's the next one came in? Next one came in from Maura. And when I looked at this at first, I didn't think much of it. And then when I opened it up, I says, God, that's brilliant. It's an absolutely super shot. But then I said to myself, I wonder how it would work as a profile photograph. But I looked at it and it was quite good. But the problem with it was, it wasn't a JPEG either. So it's called a GIF, a GFIF file. And so when I put it into Photoshop, I couldn't do anything with it. But as I was looking at it, I said to myself, that photograph has an awful lot going for it. That's the way when you are intermediate and advanced photographers, you get your award-winning photographs. This is not there yet at advanced level, but it's knocking at the door because the concept has been found. It is brilliant because it's got lovely curved lines, it's got brilliant composition, but it could be an award-winning advanced photograph, but not the way it is at present. Okay, so you have found this as a location where you get an award-winning print. And if this was Pat Gallagher, he's no fear at all. He would go back to the owner of that place and say, do you mind if I come back in sometime when you're quiet and take that photograph again, or find another location where it is, because it's all set up. You have the basic bits of all the bits and pieces, and you can go back in and you work on it and decide which bits are good and which bits could possibly be improved. The fact that the little lad in the background is out of focus, right? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Would it be better if he was sharp? How would you make it sharp? The intermediate and advanced photographer would be thinking along those lines and would be thinking about the technicalities of their camera in order to do it. This would be lift and press, I presume, at the beginning, which is very, very important to do, because you could have an award-winning one there, or in this case, you've got the huge potential for an award-winning one. Maybe you might go back to it again, or reset it, or reuse the idea in a modified version. The fact that the kid has a red top on is super, right? And you could go back and you could analyze it all sorts of ways. Maybe you could put a flash there at the back to light the kid in the back or whatever. But when this photograph came up, I said to myself, this is a good example of the way we would operate if we were looking for that top image that we would get an award-winning image. This is on the way, and it's a super shot to do it. But anyway, the project here and the criteria here was to use it as a profile photograph, and which she has. And we look, and then in my next shot, why isn't it going to the next shot? I asked you. Oh yes, the next shot is putting the circle around it. And I take back what I say. I think it works very well as a profile shot. And the rest of it, see, because the blue that was out at the side in the square shot is now cropped out of it. And you have an extra circle and an extra curve in it. So in lots of ways, it became interesting. And I have it converted in this shot into a JPEG. Now in a few minutes, I will be showing you how to convert it yourself so that you know how to do these things. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one came in from Mary Mac, and it came in as a Jiffy file as well, and it needed changing, so I changed it into the JPEG. It came in that way with her because she sent it off her iPad, and it was a brilliant learning curve to send it from a different location. That's brilliant. I don't know what the white bits around the side was an app that was within the iPad or whatever. So this is the one that she gave in, and I thought it was quite interesting because it's very easy to explain. It would look well. So I then started to put the circles around the side of it, and I got a little bit confused. It takes a bit of time to change. No, it didn't change. There we are. I'm not hitting the keyboard hard enough. So I couldn't decide where the circle would be. Would it be on the white one on the inside, or would it be on the black one on the outside? Thought the black one on the outside might look good because it would give 4 little white bits, which you would give out about in composition. But when you're using it as a profile photograph, it might be of advantage, where it kind of makes it more contrasty and stands out more. So you all have to decide which one is the better one to work with. The whole idea I'm trying to get across here is that when we take an image, that we look at it and we see different things in it. Now, other people looking in at this might say, oh, that's a brilliant photograph, I don't agree with what he's saying. That's fine. You might find something else that's completely different in it. What I'm trying to get you to do is I'm trying to get people to look at photographs and analyse it. But when that goes into the MM, you can probably imagine what I'm going to say next. That the M and the M, as far as the circles are concerned, are a little bit on the big side. Yellow is nice and contrasted because in reality we might not use those colours, but for the profile photograph, yes, because you want them to show out. Typeface becomes important here, and size becomes important. Quite an interesting exercise, so I was very, very pleased with that. This one came in from Eileen. I said, Irene, God, I'm in love. And at first I says, God, I don't know about this. There's a lot of stuff in it. But when you put it into the circle, come on, circle. Okay. When you put it into a circle, it works very well. You know, I take back what I say, because that's the way that photograph is meant to be used. Okay. So that worked out very well. The next one came in from Gary, and this is a quite an interesting one. Now, as you can see, Gary took this as 125th of a second at f4, and he used 100 ISO, and he used his Canon camera to take this, because the information tells us that over on the side. And I looked at that and I said to myself, I don't know. I says, maybe he didn't understand what I wanted. And yet, it's a very interesting shot. And I looked at it and I thought about it for a while, because, you know, maybe I just didn't understand what he was at. One thing I would say about this photograph, it's shot at 100 ISO. This is a general comment that we'll be making these comments later on. In those sort of a situation, if you were an intermediate or an advanced photographer, you will be trying to push up your ISO as fast, as high as you could, because you're trying to handhold. Maybe he held this on a camera, on a tripod. This is probably from the Blue of the Night, and it would allow him to work with a higher ISO. But anyway, it's what he's put in, and it's the Blue of the Night, so that's why it's blue. Just talking about the ISO, that might have been the automatic setting on the camera. So if you're beginners, these sort of things you just let it go over your head. Just know that they're there. Intermediate, you want to be getting to know about these sort of things. If you're advanced, it's a much bigger issue for you, because it's what you need to know. And it's what makes you from producing a very good photograph to a brilliant photograph. And a lot of our people produce absolutely wonderful photographs. I don't doubt that for 1 second. But you really need to be using all the facilities that your camera will give you and understand how they're working. That's enough waffle about that. Let's put it in a circle. And it works in a circle. It really works in a circle. Because you can say it's C, and it's got horizontal lines in it. It's got the man in the corner. It's got the dog. So I thought maybe the chimneys over in the back would have made an interesting one as well, but I tried both and I thought this was the better one at the end. Now, this one was put up by Eileen, and as you can see, in her case, she took this photograph at 1/50th of a second, and it was f5, and it was 800 ISO. and she used her Canon PowerShot to take it, right? Because this is called metadata, and it's in all your images. On some of them, the earlier ones, it's not there because it's gone through so many uploads and downloads and all sorts of things. It's got lost somewhere in the system. So this is a lovely photograph as well. And it has got the decisive moment because it's got the dog looking well. Now this would be a very good photograph for a profile photograph, especially if this is your dog, right? So I had a look at it and see what it would look like with a circle, and it works. It works. It's a lovely shot. This is one put up by Dennis, and this one is at a 60th of a second at f3. And he's using 400 ISO, okay? And you can see the camera that he's using there. And the project was to come up with a photograph for a profile photograph. That was what the criteria was laid down for. Now, I am very impressed, Dennis, that you would want me as your photograph on your phone. And it is an interesting one, and you have visualized it being in a circular format, right? And I'll show you what the circular format looks like in a few minutes. And but this was lift, shoot first, and ask questions later. Now, when you are intermediate photographer, he has the 400 ISO set on his camera because this was taken, as far as I remember, on one of the meetup nights, and there's not a huge amount of light there, right? So he has used the 400 to get the possible the amount of ISO that he can out of his camera because the lighting isn't all that great. But his camera, the fastest shutter speed it was able to work with was a 60th of a second, and a 60th of a second will take up movement. If you shake or if the person moves, you will take up shake. f3.1 is probably the maximum aperture that's available on your camera. Your focusing decided to focus on the background, so maybe I'm a little bit blurred because of the fact that I am either out of focus because the camera put me out of focus, or because I am closer to you, I am moving a little bit. But the background is actually sharper than what my face in the foreground is. If you're intermediate, okay, in this occasion you have to shoot first and ask questions later, because that's the way Dennis does these photographs, and he's brilliant at doing them. But they have their own challenges. Now, the other really good thing that Dennis did on this occasion, you can agree or disagree, he had the flash turned on his camera when he took it. And you know that because there's two little catch lights in my eyes, and there's also a shadow underneath my cap. Now, that's not coming from the sun above because it's not direct sunlight, it's soft lighting. Okay, so these are all the sorts of things that you'd want to be taken into consideration when you are moving up along the systems. If you are only a beginner and you say, I don't need to know any of these things, well, it's a great advantage if you do know them. Because when you go to take a photograph, you are using your camera to the best of its ability. You're understanding what needs to be done and not done. So that's what I would say about that one. But the criteria was that it was used for a profile photograph. So I put the circle around it, and yes, it adds it goes with those criteria. Now, when this reaches a small little photograph on your phone, you're not really going to be able to see the bus stop in the background, right? You can say to somebody it's in the background, which would be a good way of explaining it. But if you were to now judge it as an image, you'd say the bus stop is causing conflict. Quick way of getting rid of it is use the blur tool in Photoshop. The vertical bar coming at my ear is challenging as well, so that for the intermediate and advanced person could be taken out. This was not meant to be at this level. This was only to get yourself used to getting the images up and done. You had enough of things to try and cope with. As I say, when you're trying to do these things and getting these videos up, I find it's difficult to use the OBS where I put it. It's like trying to drive a car. I have to think about everything, and there's always something that I haven't thought about because it's not coming automatically to us yet. But that's a very good job, Dennis. The next one came in from Declan, and unfortunately Declan has left us. This was also an interesting exercise. This is the photograph that has ended up on my screen because I hit something wrong. I don't know, I'm going to take it off, but I left it up there to show you what can go wrong on you, and it's not too difficult to correct it. Now, Declan had this photograph taken at one of the nights that we did for the high key night. And he said somebody who came along, a lady who comes along to all of these ones that we do, she loves the portrait type ones, and she took this photograph. But she shared it with him, and it ended up in his Google photograph store, and he wanted to put it up. Now, theoretically, it's cheating because it was meant to be a photograph you had taken. But no, you're allowed to cheat. You're allowed to cheat because we all learn from cheating. So that was the way he sent it to me. He was trying to figure out how from Google Photos could he transfer it over. So I suggested that he opened it, did a screen grab of it on his phone, and send a screen grab to me as the photograph, which he did. And that's what we have here. Okay? And then I had to do a little bit of work on it and put a circle around it, and yes, it does work. Right? And it's of him, it's on his phone, so the criteria was met, and it was an interesting way of doing it. We also learned the system whereby you can move photographs from Google Photographs over. And I went and had a look at it myself, and I'll be talking in a few minutes about options in that particular area, because other people might want to do that as well. This one was in by Barney the Great, and Barney and I were playing on his computer from a distance using the split screen, the share screen on Skype, and we were talking about this as an exercise. And he took this photograph, and in his case, he cropped it square using the ratio of 1:1 on Photoshop. Right? Interesting on this, when we see the information about the camera, it's only shot at 100 ISO, but it looks quite noisy because there's not very much light there. It's at f22 because obviously you're doing a night shot. I would presume this was taken on a tripod, and it's at a 30th of a second. Right? So a 30th of a second is not that long. And 100 ISO, you know, you would have expected to, or maybe it's because it's a cropped part of the image that there's a lot of noise showing it, or might be because of the type of lighting that's there. Anyway, they're all interesting points about this. Barney went and cropped this as a square shot because we were thinking in circles, right? So then we went and we put the circle around. He says, yeah, that would work, and it's nice, as in the one with Maura had earlier on. It's got nice composition. It's got little diagonal lines and horizontal and vertical, and there's a circle in it that complements the circle. It's very obvious when it goes into up on a profile that's got a blue line out. It's kind of like a white blob in the middle. When you're explaining to people what it looks like, it stands out as being unique and a very interesting shot. So then the two of us got playing, and we tried to put it against a white background with doing putting it in different layers and playing around with it, which we will be doing later on in this course as well. So that was what our play acting created on this shot. And then as we were doing it, we fell over a shot. We fell over that one, which is just the corner of the image. And we said, that looks quite interesting. And if you look at the one that Barney is using at present, which we put up when we started off into Skype, was a dreadful photo. So, sorry, I just said that was not a great photograph when we went to go for it as a photograph to put up as a profile photograph. But in the end, it works very well. It's a blue piece of blue with a white streak in it, and it makes Barney very, very unique. Not that Barney isn't unique up on the as a profile photograph. So then we put the circle around it, and it works as a profile photograph as well, doesn't it? Okay, then we go back now to talking about Declan and trying to get his photographs from his Google photos, right? And this was one shot that I was experimenting with on my phone. So I went into Google Photos, picked out the photograph of what Cabanas looks like on one of these days. That's the seafront in May. Can you believe it? And I said I was going to put that up somewhere on the system. So all you had to do was tick it, and then underneath all the options with share came. You could create a link, you could share it by WhatsApp. In his case, he could have shared it by email, sent it to himself, opened it in the email, put it into Photoshop, played with it in Photoshop, and then put it into theoretically the next move would be to put it into a folder in the AAA folder, because that's where all your classwork goes, so you always know where your classwork stuff is. Put it in there, and from that spot send it to me by Skype. I'll be talking about that now in a second as well. Okay, so I hope I have this right. I'm going to explain this. When we have been, these photographs have come in, I have learned quite an amount from it. And one of the things that I learned is the one that seems to be the best and easiest way of coping with at present. Now this may change. It's not written in stone, because we're all only learning at this stage. But this looks like the best system. So most people will understand this and know it. And if anybody sees a flaw in what I have said when they go to do it after me saying it, you can go and put up a note, and I will correct it. Most people will be doing this anyway. Right, so the procedure for doing it is you go into your Skype and you go and you put my one, the one with the red and the yellow one, you send it to me privately on Skype, only to me. So you open me, right? I'm pretending this has been sent by Etna. I just put that up there. It's not really like that. I cheated and put it up there because I couldn't be her, because I had to do it on my own one. And I would presume that my name will appear over here. I just wrote that in. Okay. So when you want to send a photograph, now this is the photograph she had sent to me. So this is in the past, right? So I'm just explaining to you how she did it. What she did was she went down here to where the red circle was, or a lot of people do it this way. I'm explaining this to people who don't quite understand how this is done. You go to this little icon down here on the bottom and you left click on that. People are going to say, I can't see it, it's not there. It's not there until you run your cursor over Skype in this particular area. It doesn't show up there. So it's that when you click on that. When you click on that, it opens this dialog box within Skype. And that is your file explorer on your own laptop or on your own system. You pull up this grey fella here up to the very, 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 very top until you come to desktop. You click on desktop, and on desktop you will have a folder. It will be more than likely the very first folder up there. It will be called AAA, Anoiga class, or whatever you called it. That's why it's sitting there. That's why it's easy to find. That's why it's got the capital A's. That's where the photograph that you want to send me will live. Right, it will either live in that folder or in the subfolder, depending upon what way you want to organize your management. So you go up there, and let's pretend that this is AAA here that is showing. You hit on that one and it will show here. You highlight the photograph that you want to send to me by left clicking on it. Don't double click or do anything like that, just one gentle light click on it. And it will go blue. It'll be highlighted. And if you want to send me two, you use your control key and you highlight another one. You can send 3 or 4 here at the one time if you want to. Okay? Or you can send one at a time. You hit the open button here, and it will then come to the next screen. It should look something like this. and it will pop over into this area here where the photograph will be. In this case, there is only the one. Ignore that. That was just me playing and seeing how it would work, so I was explaining it to you properly. It will come here. It's not gone yet. If you want to, you can put your name in there, or you can put a piece of information in there, or whatever you want to. And when you have that done, you press this little blue button over here with a left click, and it will come to my account. When I get it in my account, I will take it out and I'll put it into the little show like what we did for today to show the images, or whatever else we're going to be doing with it. So that's the standard of best practice at present. It may change. We may find other much better ways of doing it, but that sounded the best way of doing it so far. And there's other bits and pieces to go with this criteria as well. I think that's the last shot I have. Yeah, that's the last shot. Okay. So there's other things to go with the criteria as well when you are sending to me. If this doesn't work for you, right, send it to me directly on WhatsApp, to me personally, not into the friends of. Or alternatively, if that doesn't work for you, you can send it to me as an email. And that's the way it's been coming in at this stage to me. I accept them all. Very grateful that they all come to me that way, because it makes it easier. We don't know which way works until we work it. I'm very glad to get it anyway. But we're trying to create a standard of best practice to make it easy for when we do these sort of things, that it's a process that works quite well each time. We're not there yet, but we're on the way. So that's how you send it to me. Now, the criteria about the minimize that. Okay, the criteria about, and Declan is back, as Mary says. The criteria about laying down the way to send me the image and the way the file should be. It should, if at all possible, and if you can, it be a JPEG, right? So we have to figure out how to get a JPEG, right? So this is the photograph that I we're going to use as an example of Maura's one, right? Because that wasn't a JPEG. It probably came from a phone, or she went through a phone. God knows it. These old fairies cause all sorts of problems on us, and we never know how things do. But it's a great example and a great way of showing, because it wasn't just Maura, there was quite a few who had this challenge. And if we're going to be dealing with people who are beginners, and beginners usually use phones, they may be coming on iPads, they may be coming in this way to us anyway, and we will have to cope with it this way. It only has to go into a JPEG if you want to put it into, it's much better into Photoshop, or if you want to put it into a slideshow or whatever. Just JPEG, everybody accepts, everything accepts JPEGs. Anyway, how do you get this made into a JPEG? What you do is, you right click, and you come down, open with, you go into open with, and you go into paint, okay? And it will open, that image will open in paint. Okay, let's see if the fairies don't give us trouble. Everybody has paint on their computer. It comes as per normal. It's creating a new, oh, I made a mistake. Do you see the mistake I made? I have to get out of here. I went into the wrong one. It opened in Paint 3D. That's not where I want it. So I'm going to close that off. Well, this is a good job I made a mistake. You'll learn. That's a good way of open with Paint. I hit Paint 3D. I should have hit Paint. It's now opened in Paint. Okay, lots of interesting things you can do here. Do you know when I say to you, you want to put up a photograph up onto WhatsApp, and you want to put something like what Mary put up for the Easter cards? Remember when we were doing this, and you want to put some writing on it? You can do it in Paint. You don't need Photoshop. It can be done here. And I would love to see people putting up their photographs onto the WhatsApp Friends of Anoiga, rather than sharing stuff that comes from funny videos and whatever, because we are a photographic group and we should be able to be doing these sort of things. Put it up and put a saying on it, or circle is good or whatever. Make it funny, preferably make it funny if you can. Put a caption underneath it, whatever. And if you don't have Photoshop, it can be done here, right? And you just have to, it's on all, everybody gets free, and it is on all laptops. I haven't heard of it not ever being on a laptop. Anyway, what we want to hear is we want to make it into a JPEG. So what you do is you go File and you go Save As. And when you come to Save As, look at the options it gives you. It gives you all these other ways of producing different files, but one of them happens to be a JPEG. So you hit JPEG and it does its thing. Okay. And it comes with a dialog box and it's asking you, where do you want to put it? Okay, so the criteria that we are using for our course, you can put it anywhere, but our criteria is that you put it into desktop. So you run all the way up here to the top. Sometimes desktop appears twice on your screen, and that one is fine, but very often it gets itself into a twist and it prefers this one up here at the very top, because that one is always there. And you remember I saying to AAA class, or whatever you're going to, it's always, or theoretically, the first one that comes. So you don't have to be searching looking for it. It's in big black capital letters. I think maybe if you put class in capital letters, it'll appear there. If you call it AA class and knowing a photo, it'll be even more obvious because the line will be longer. You go into that and you open it, right? I was creating one of the ones in there for this one, Project 1. So that's where you want to put it, and you're going to put it in there. Now it's become a JPEG. If you just save it there and it was there, it will just become the JPEG and you lose the old one. But on this case, we will put a different extension onto it. Put maybe, see the way it does it there for you, JPEG 2. Just because that's what I called more as one the last time. You can put anything else in there. You can call it KKKK, whatever you want. Whatever suits you. I put in 1 or whatever, and then you say save. Now, that has gone back to that AA class, into project. And that is where, I'm going to close this off now, and that is where you can find it back in AA class, because you try and make things that make it easier for you to find. We go back in here, and that new one in Project 1 should be called KKKKKKKKK. You probably found.
Where do you find Paint?
You find Paint. You find Paint. It's one of your programs that is embedded in your computer when you start off at first. Just put in a search for Paint in the dialog box on the bottom where it says type here for search. In Windows 10 it's there, in other programs it's in different places. It's there on 99% of occasions. Right then, there was the one we put in as KKK. Right, when Maura originally sent that to me, because it was the old criteria, everybody sent it in to me with a strange number underneath it. Etna, fair dues to her, Etna put in, this is what Etna sent to me on hers, you can see it there, Project 1 profile pic Etna. Oh, right, and I says, that's a good way of doing it, that's her file name. Right, that has come in there. And I says, that's a great way, because that's what I did to the rest of you, because they were coming in and I was forgetting who they were coming from, and it was hard for me to know who I had photographs from and who I hadn't got photographs from. So the name was a great help to me. Right, so but Maura's, now let's pretend Maura's has come in with the, and we want to change the name of it. We want to make sure it's a JPEG to send it on its way to me, and it is a JPEG. But now we want to put the criteria into it that we need for the file name. So all we have to do is highlight on it, right click, and come down to rename. Then it's open. So we can take all of that out of it. Okay? And we can call it by the criteria. So the criteria is going to be for sending in photographs for your project from now on. will be, you'll put your name there, right? Let's call your name TTTT for the want of a better name, right? Or somebody else's, you're giving this as a way to somebody else as a present, right? That's your name gone in there, right? And after that, if you're sending me more than one and they're all called TTT, they'll all get confused. So it has to follow by a unique number for that day. So for this particular project, that is, maybe that'd be better off put in as Tom, because it would look more like a name, right? So this is Tom's first one going in. So it's his first one. So he follows it by 1 because it's the first photograph he's put in. If there's only one photograph required in a project, that's fine. You don't have to put the 1 in there. But if there's more than one, you have to call the first one 1, the second one 2, second one 3, or whatever. Now, there's another little bit about this that I'm trying to think forward to this coming in over a period of time. It needs to have some other information in it. So the information that needs to follow on this, so that the projects won't get mixed up when you have a load of images in a folder coming in from different projects and you want to make them into one slideshow, or you want to do something like this. There has to be more in this criteria. So into the criteria, I was thinking of putting the date. So today's date is the 30th, isn't it?
So the
30th, Lady Gallagher knows. So we put down 30th, 04, and the 30th 04, and you can put in 20 at the end of it, okay? So that unique number that coming at the end of it tells us that it's Tom's first photograph, and he sent it in on the 30th of the 4th, 20th. And then when we put these images in, we have information in that image that is useful for us. Right, this will become obvious later on in the projects, because some of the projects that we'll be doing later on, it will be important that your name is in there at the bottom of it. Also, if you looked at when I was showing the images of different people, your name appeared when I had the information up on the top left hand corner, because that is the file name and it's a good way of knowing who it is. If this was to be run as a competition and it was a monthly competition or whatever, instead of the name, it would be your membership number that would appear up there. And that's how people would know for scoring and whatever. But on this occasion, in our case, we're going to go with just this criteria, which is the date. The first number is like your first photograph, your second photograph, your third photograph, and then it's the date after it, so that it's a criteria. We may change this. Somebody out there might find a far better way of doing it, or when we go to use it in something, it may not work and it may have to be changed at this stage. So I apologize to those who like a definitive answer, and this is the way you do it, and this is the result you get. I'm sorry that for those sort of people. I'm sorry, but we will get it right at the end, I promise. Okay, so that is that. Okay.
It's a project number 2.
This is for project number 2. Lady Gallagher has been talking about project number 2. Let's leave here. Leave here. Okay. Come back here and go back into this one. Okay. Should be on full camera screen coming up onto you, so I can tell you about your next project. Tomorrow we'll be meeting the groups for the get-together, so any problems or questions you can talk about it there. And we will also go, next week we'll have the same 2 groups as we had this week, to group 1 and 2, and then tomorrow group 3 and 4. We've had issues with the first 2. We have them all, most of them ironed out. And as we go along, hopefully next week we will get better and better at what we are doing. So here comes the project. This project is going to be used over the next couple of projects. So the work that you're going to do on it will come into action over the next couple of weeks. You'll be using this a couple of times again. It is something that you really should have anyway. We should all have this, right? And the project is to create a folder in that AAA folder that we've created on the desktop. And it's going to be called My Best Photos. It's going to be called My 12 Best Photos. So what I want you to do is, I want you to go through, you can cheat to your heart's content, right? You go back through all the stuff you have on your computer and all over the place. And you have until the next live stream, which will be next Tuesday, the day before. I'd like it on the Monday in the morning before lunch, so that I can put them together and make it into a show and get some comments organised on it. And I'd like to see it coming in on Skype. Right, I'd like to see it coming in with the new format idea that we are thinking about. And if you can't do any of the above, just send it in the best you can. Start working on it. If you don't get it finished on that occasion, you only get 6 good ones. That's okay. You can add to it later on. But the object of the game is you're going to need 12. And there's a couple of reasons why I've picked 12, because it's got different other projects coming up with it. So you get it, and you put a copy of it into the folder, and leave the original where it is, because you're rechanging the name, so you might want to go searching for it. So I don't want anything messed up, that it just ends up in your class AAA folder under your best photographs, and there's 12 of them. When you go through them, I want you to pick the best of these photographs. And that is your homework, to send that to us for the next live stream. And it's going through the actual system. And that's what it's going to be. Now, this is going to be used for other projects coming up. It's not just here, it's going to be used in a couple of other bits and pieces. Those of you who have now got your profile photograph up and organised, you can put it up onto Skype if you want to, so that it can be a part of the exercise. So how do you put it up on Skype? I had a great little, which is the fairies have taken on me. I won't go looking for it now because I'll probably hit a wrong button and confuse you. You go into Skype. You go up, and this is if you want to change your profile photograph in it. If you don't, that's fine. I don't mind, but we have a little exercise done now in stuff that could go up there. It would be a good technological exercise just to change it. If you want to go back to your old one, change it back to your old one again. It's all good work. The more you do these things, the more you get used to pressing buttons, the more you poke around, the better it will be overall. So how you do it is up to the top symbol on the top of it, where you've got the one that's being used, that you existed as present. Might be just your initial, or if you've got a flower in wherever, it's up in the top left hand corner. If you click on that, it will come with all the information about yourself, your name, your email information that's up there, your settings and all that will come. And up at the very, very top, there'll be the logo will appear again. You double click on the logo, and that will bring up a dialog box on your screen. You will pick the photograph for the profile, which should be living in AAA Project 1 for the logic to follow through. You don't have to be going through a load of file paths to find it. Go there and put that up onto it. It'll lead you through it. Have a look at it. If you don't like it, take it out and put something else back into it, right? But it's a good learning exercise. I hope that there wasn't too many mistakes or too many things said wrong. I will know later as you put it up on Skype and put messages up here on the live stream. I would like to encourage you, now as we're getting better and better at doing these live streams, to try and encourage other people into it. Don't have to be a member of Anoiga. You can share this video with anybody. Even after the event, you can share it with them. Maybe better to wait until next week when we get a little bit better at it. There will be less mistakes, but there will always be mistakes. We're not professional at doing this yet. And let's try and get the people who aren't in on the live streams, try and get them involved. There's a couple who I can think of who are our members who aren't on. We're not going to be able to bring them into sub-little groups for the class because there's 12 people in that already, and I just wouldn't be able to cope with any more. But that doesn't mean they can't follow on in the live stream. That doesn't mean that they can't follow on in the projects. That doesn't mean that they can't put in their images. Gary is not in any of the groups, and he is sending in stuff because he's working just from the live stream and sending stuff in that way, and that's fine. And we need more people like that as well. Okay, take care. Thank you all very much for your patience. Just went slightly over the hour. My humblest apologies. Go have fun, have the double brandies, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Thank you very much.